So more and more I speak less and less about awakening. And more about openness. I've come to see more clearly how pointing to awakening and speaking of awakening sets up an imagination, an imaginary picture, a goal, an achievement, an idea of some moment in time where there's a sudden shift into a different state of consciousness. And the reality is that it doesn't always happen that way. And even when it does appear to happen that way, that there does appear to be an awakening, a sudden, if you like, shift into a new perspective or an opening of the heart or a realization, a recognition of something that was previously out of view, out of reach. Even if it appears to happen that way, that is not it. That which appears to be awakening is what I call a popping of energy, where there has been a block, a resistance of some kind. An unmet energy, an unresolved hurt or tightness or darkness. When somehow, at some time, either because there's been a kind of preparation through the spiritual journey, through the spiritual seeking, or there's been some movement towards surrender, increasing surrender and softening into life, then that which was previously out of reach, because there was resistance to fully meeting that, it's met in that moment, that appears to be an awakening. There is a release of that contraction, there is a release of that darkness, there is a release of that tension, there is a release of that clenched fist, which may be in the mind, it may be in the heart, it may be in the body, in the emotional body, in the astral body, whichever body it's in, there's a release. And that we may call an awakening. But you don't need to wait for that, neither to mistake that. For what is real and for what can really make an impact on how you operate in life. And that is the softening, the turning towards, the falling into, over and over again, that which I've now come to call openness, because that's what it is. Openness is our essential nature. Openness at the core of everybody, every single human being. At the core of every single human being is openness. It is the nature of everything. Openness is that which is unencumbered by beliefs. A raindrop has the quality of openness. A snowflake has the quality of openness. A sunbeam has the quality of openness. A crystal has the quality of openness. Because they are unencumbered by beliefs. So the purity, the light, the innocence is available. We perceive it as lightness. It's also the same with a kitten or a puppy or a baby. And as we become more complicated and more sophisticated with the mind, the self-reflective mind, the capacity for self-awareness and cognitive function, then that innate openness, that innate innocence, that innate purity, that innate lightness, that innate light, you can call that Christ consciousness too, appears to get covered over. So what was open and is open gets crusted over, encrusted by our beliefs. Beliefs based on perception, self-reflection, beliefs based on conditioning, what we learn to be right and wrong, good and bad. But this openness is available always. You don't have to wait for a mythical happening called awakening or enlightenment. To rest, to give yourself to this opening, to this openness that's available always. Always. It's available as you go about every moment of life. You can go about life operating from the clenched fist. The clenched fist is the reactivity, the self-righteousness, the indignation. Anything that has a whisper or a shout of this shouldn't be happening to me. I shouldn't be feeling this. I shouldn't be experiencing this. Life shouldn't be doing this to me. And this is on the micro level and the macro level. The micro level being your moment-to-moment experience, your energetic experience of life. And on the macro level, what we think and see is happening in the world that we don't like or don't want. Everything from the micro level to the macro level offers you the opportunity to operate from this or to operate from this. This is freedom. The open hand is freedom. You can throw away all concepts of awakening, throw away all concepts of enlightenment, and just turn your attention to this. And this will serve you and serve the world far more than chasing the dream, the myth of an awakened state. Because this is awakening. It's awakening out of the dream of poor me. Out of the dream of separation, as soon as there is a me to which this shouldn't be happening, you are operating out of separation. That inner clenchedness, that tightness, that hardening towards what is your experience is the root of separation. And in that you suffer and the world suffers. To allow what is, to allow what is unfolding as your experience now and now and now and now. To rest lightly in the open hand of you as openness is the greatest gift to yourself and to the world. It's love. It's freedom. It's tenderness. And everything, it's beauty. Everything that flows out from that. Kindness, compassion, generosity, and so on, all flow naturally from this place. You don't have to be concerned about your behavior, your actions, because everything takes care of itself. It's as if everything, the whole world, comes into rightness, comes into a natural alignment. So my invitation more and more, because if these meetings are to serve anything, they're not to uphold any idea of an elevated state. They're not to uphold the one-sided perspective of non-dual awakening. It is that. It is non-dual in the sense that not two. Yeah, this is two. Me and everything else. Me and my experience. Me and the world. And so on. In this, it is all one. There is no me in opposition to anything. There is no me in opposition to my experience, because it is happening. So how can I deny that, or fight that, or reject that? That's insanity. So it is non-dual in that sense. But it is not a perspective. It is not a state. In which nothing is happening and I do not exist, that I try to uphold in order not to feel anything unwanted, in order to uphold a state of perfection. Or to uphold any kind of mental perspective. If these meetings are to serve anything, then the pointer to the open hand of openness that is always here, that is always available to you, that is always you, at the core of you, at the innermost. Then if we point to that over and over again, then there is some service going on, because this is what the world needs more than anything. To have the courage and the willingness to surrender, to give up all weapons of war created by your mind, created by resistance, your resistance, created by your rejection, created by your indignance, or created by your sense of being a victim. If you put all those down, then you live as peace. And surrender, this kind of surrender, is a tenderness of being with what is. Whenever there is tightness, whenever there is turmoil, whenever there is turbulence, whenever there is confusion, be tender towards that. It's not about rejecting the confusion or the terror or the resistance. It's about being tender towards that. That softens everything. So that instead of feeding war, the war in you, instead of feeding that, you come to be fed by your very nature, which is love. When you are fed by love, then you don't go seeking love from outside of you. Seeking love comes in many forms. The seeking of approval, the seeking of being seen as special or worthy, the seeking of comfort and security from another or from society or from some kind of group or tribe for a sense of belonging. The seeking of recognition for your achievements or your prowess in some way, physical, mental. When you stop looking for love in that way from outside of you, you stop being in a codependent relationship with the world. A codependent relationship with the world involves bartering with life. If I do the right thing, then I'll get the love that I need so much. I'll get the security, the comfort I need, the approval. Codependency means bartering with life. It means begging life to give you what you want. It means manipulating and bullying life. And all of that takes energy. Energy that could be used in a different way, that nourishes and fulfills, not drains and strains. When you live as the openness of love, as your nature, from the innermost depth of you, then that love is an infinite pool, an infinite river that flows into everything and nourishes everything.